Andre, I'm a historian, tour guide, lecturer, most importantly for this evening, a ripperologist. Yeah, so I'm not sure what that is as an historian who studies murders professionally. I'm doing this now for over 30 years. My pleasure to talk for you this evening. As always, as we begin to walk, a quick word about health and safety, and you're all responsible for your own health and safety. So please look left, look right. We will be using the public crossings where available. Also, for the comfort of other people, no smoking, please, during the tour. E-cigarettes are okay, but no actual smoking, please. Are you still waiting on some people? Yeah, what you need to do then is go back to the starting point where the other guide is waiting, okay? So we cap the numbers. I can't take any more, we cap the numbers.
No,
when I count,
they're on it.
Yeah, they're with the other guide. There's another guide waiting outside the Whitechapel Gallery. Yeah, they're on this tour. You need to go with the other guide. So I'm not taking any more. I've got my maximum now. You have a maximum number. So you need to go to the... There's a woman under a gas lamp. She's talking to the men as they pass by. The Suba comes through. She's a prostitute looking for a man so she can make a bit of money. You've seen any of the movies, such as From Hell, you know, the man appears with a top hat and a cape. He's also in his hand as a doctor's bag. He approaches the woman. He wants to know how much it's going to cost for the business, shall we say. And back then, to be with one of these women would cost you tuppence to hold insurance. No need to worry, if you haven't got the tuppence, she's still going to go with you for a stale loaf of bread or perhaps just a glass of gin. So life is very cheap here in East London. He approaches and what suddenly grabs her. Friends, Jack the Ripper's first official victim. Okay guys, come a bit closer now, so I'll be standing this side. So, welcome to 48 Betterlength yard. Suddenly the police stops. Thinking this a little bit odd, he jumps down to investigate, discovers lying in the entrance of the yard the body of Elizabeth Stride. Now today she's often referred to as Lucky Lizzie. That might seem a bit odd, you know, why would you be lucky if you've been murdered by Jack the Ripper? The reason for the nickname is Lucky Lizzie only had a throat cut across. She did not suffer the appalling abdominal mutilation that Jack inflicts on his other victims. So of course people always ask me the question, why did the Ripper treat her differently? And we believe the answer is the killer was the still. He's over the body, he's got the knife in hand, he's cutting the throat when he hears the click clop of the opponent's boots. That's what he wants to be caught red-handed. In those days they'd have hanged him for murder. We suspect what happens is Jack the Ripper makes his escape. He's got this bloodlust, this desire to rip, to maim, to slash, to mutilate. Can't do that to Lucky Lizzie. So is that perhaps the reason why he kills again that very same night? If you're interested in finding out more about the ghosts of the 10,000 pub, there's an American series called Killer Contact. Episode 1 was filmed at the 10,000 pub. We actually interviewed a good friend of mine, a lady called Lindsay. She's got blonde hair, see her in the programme. And she's talking about how she went round to visit her friend who lived above the pub. That's me. And as she was walking up the stairs with her case, the ghost pushed her very aggressively down the stairs. So if you want to find out more about the ghost of the 10,000 pub, Killer Contact, episode 1, you'll find out a lot more from that program. Okay? If not a fun, guys, let me just over. Okay guys, so the photograph I'm showing you now is of Commercial Street, which we crossed a little earlier. If you take a look to the right, you'll see the 10 Bells pub that I just spoke to you about. And on the left hand side you can see the entrance to Spitalfields Market where we were just standing. And that was originally the fruit, vegetable and flower market for London, hence why it was so busy when the photograph was taken. Next picture is of Berners Street. If you take a look to the right, you'll see a wheel above a gated entrance. And that was the entrance to Dutfield's Yard. And you might remember I explained to you how Louis Dimschutz with his pony cart enters the yard, discovers lying on the ground the body of Elizabeth Stride. Now the next photograph is the post-mortem picture. And here we go. She was actually born Elizabeth Gustafsdotter in Sweden, in a place called Torslanda, not far from Gothenburg. And as a young woman she left Sweden, moved to London looking for a better life, married an Englishman and became Elizabeth Stride. But today we know her as Lucky Lizzie because she only had her throat cut across. Rather fun we got. And then this part directly opposite, this was the night refuge. Men and women were strictly segregated. Ladies would have gone through this entrance on the corner. If you look above the doorway, you'll see it says women. And just around the other side next to a lamp there's another entrance, that was for the men. It opened in 1868, could accommodate about 300 people a night. But many hundreds more were turned away because there wasn't room for everybody here at the refuge. If you were lucky enough to be admitted, the nuns would give you a bath, lend you some clean clothes, give you a bowl of cocoa, and some bread and a wooden box to sleep in. Anyone care to guess what happens if you die during the course of the night? You've got it, you get to keep the box, okay? Next morning they fix a lid, they arrange for a pauper's burial, so you're literally sleeping in your own coffin. Wow. But it's better than lying in the gutter with the rats over there, and believe me, during the toilet at night I still see plenty of rats. And even now some of them are as big as cats. And if you don't believe me, have a look online. About a year ago, a man caught one not far from here, took a photograph, it showed on the local news. He claimed it was over 2 foot long, bigger than the man's dog. Could you imagine sleeping in the gutter with something like that? That'd be pretty horrifying all by itself. If all the Ripper victims stayed here at some point, we all have gone to the entrance on the corner. Sadly, it's no longer a convent and refuge anymore. It was sold by the nuns a few years ago, bought by the University of London, and converted into student accommodation. So the building's still in use. The inside's completely changed, but the outside remains the same. And in a moment, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to cross the road to the other side of the street. Just so you're aware, you can get traffic coming from 3 directions, okay? That way, that way. Up the body, because this photograph was taken after the surgeon had stitched her back together. So not only do I feel sorry for Catherine Eddowes, I actually feel a bit sorry for the surgeon, whose job it was to stitch her back together. Can you imagine doing that for a living? Pretty horrible job indeed. Here we have an illustration showing the mutilation inflicted on the face. If you look just below the eyes, you'll notice 2 triangular shaped incisions. Here we have a copy of the message that the Ripper left at Dawson Street. The Jews are the men that will not be blamed for nothing. And here we have a photograph of the police commissioner, Sir Charles Warren, who was responsible for wiping it away. You're thinking to yourselves, what does the message mean and why did the police commissioner destroy it? All being revealed at the end of the tour as part of my summing up. Now to follow me, guys. Where we're standing now was, until about 5 years ago, historic Dorset Street. And normally what I do at this part of the tour is I tell you about its 400 years of history. Yeah, sadly can't do it anymore, I'm afraid. It was all demolished. The man to blame, Boris Johnson. Yes, formerly our Prime Minister, before that Mayor of London. He decides why keep a beautiful historic street used by all the local tour guides. We can have this office development on the site instead. But I still need to tell you about it because all the Ripper victims lived here at some point, and Mary Jane Kelly, who I'll speak about within a moment, she was actually murdered on Dorset Street, okay? There's only one thing left today to remind us the street was here, and these are the golden lines on the floor. So this marks what was the original width of the street. There were buildings all the way along this side. Likewise, there were buildings along here too. In the 1960s, the street became slightly narrower. That's why we have an additional line on this side. Now, I'm going to talk to you now about Mary Jane Kelly, Jack the Ripper's 5th and final victim. And she was born in Limerick in Ireland. And as a young girl, the family left Ireland, settled in South Wales. There she grew up. Age of 16, she marries a coal miner, but shortly afterwards, her husband was killed in a mining accident. So not a good start to life for Mary Kelly. And believe me, things are going to get an awful lot worse. She stays with her cousin in Cardiff. The years are passing by. She's not really happy with a lot in life. Maybe somebody said to her one day, Mary Kelly, you can only get to London, you'll find that there the streets are paved with gold. Popular saying back then, if you weren't well educated, people sometimes believed it. Can you imagine Mary's disappointment when she arrives here in the East End, discovers these streets covered in vomit, urine, blood, rats, muck, filth of every description. Having nowhere to stay, she went to the Providence Row Refuge, which I spoke about with you earlier, and being a good Catholic girl from Ireland, the nuns welcome her with open arms. In fact, they help her get a job in the West End of London, working in a shop on Cleveland Street. If you're not sure where Cleveland Street is, it's very close to Oxford Street, where perhaps you've done some shopping at some point. There, Mary Kelly works in a shop serving customers. She also takes care of a little girl called Alice. And she really loves Alice. In fact, she starts to tell her friends, I am now a governess. So she thinks she's doing really well in life. And something happens, we're not quite sure what, and Mary Kelly ends up coming back here to the east end of London. A little bit of money she saved up from her job, she gets her own room at 13 Miller's Court, Dorset Street. Shortly after moving in, she's joined by her new boyfriend, a man called Joseph Barnett. It's a bit of luck for Mary that Joe's moved in, because she has no work at that point. And Joe says, don't you worry, love, I've got a job at the market, I'll pay the rent, give you a chance to get back on your feet. And for a while they're happy sharing the room together until the Jack the Ripper murders start. And then Mary Kelly, she gets very scared indeed. In fact, she asks Joe to read to her the accounts of the murders in the newspapers. And as Joe does this, Mary tells him, I believe the killer is after me. And Joe's a bit sceptical. Come on, Mary, don't talk rubbish, love. All the women living in the East End of London, why would Jack particularly want you? He doesn't really listen to Mary Kelly. She gets very scared, doesn't want to leave the room. That puts a lot of pressure on the relationship. They start a fight. One night there's a big argument. The window in the room gets smashed. Joe moves out, cannot live with Mary anymore. She is driving him crazy. And of course, this is bad news for Mary Kelly, because now that Joe is gone, there's no money coming in. And unfortunately for women, there weren't many jobs around here back then, apart from one, prostitution. So she works as a lady of the night, falls into debt. And then came the day of the Lord Mayor's show, the 9th of November, 1888. And that morning, Mr. McCarthy, Mary Kelly's landlord, is going for the rent book. He notices that Mary Kelly is 29 shillings behind with the rent. A lot of money back then. So at 10:45 a.m. he sends round the rent collector to get them. I'll do a kind of reconstruction for you. Guys, can you see these two lines on the floor just here? We're going to walk along there in a minute. So if you wouldn't mind just standing to the side, that's lovely. So as I explained to you, this was Dorset Street. There were buildings along here. In order to access Mary's room at Miller's Court, you have to go for a brick archway on the spot. Now take it down a little passageway. Mary Kelly's room would have been just here. I'm going to continue from this spot. If you want to come a bit closer, reposition if needs to be, that's absolutely fine, all right? Just let this lady through. I think she wants to get a bit closer. There we go.
Yeah, I'm there, fine.
You're fine.
Okay, that's fine, as long as you can hear me.
Yep.
Mary Kelly's room would have been just here, very small, just 12 foot by 12 foot. So literally just enough room for the bed, a bedside table, fireplace, washstand, pretty much it. Rent collector is knocking on the door. Come on, Mary, I need the rent. And there's no response. He's probably thinking, cheeky madam, I bet she's hiding. They ordered this on rent day. I'm going to see if I can catch her out. So he turns the corner, and there would have been the exterior wall to Mary's room. So the rent collector puts his hand through the broken window, grabs the curtain, and pulls it away. But the sight that he sees is so disgusting, so horrific. The poor man is immediately sick, because lying on the bed was the butchered remains of Mary Kelly. She had been skinned to the bone. Every organ had been removed from the body. The heart was torn from the breast, taken away by the killer. He slices off the breasts, the nose, the cheeks, the ears, the eyebrows, removes the chin. On the bedside table were piles of her flesh. And the newspapers reported that hanging from the picture frames in the room, like Christmas decorations, were Mary Kelly's intestines. Mr. McCarthy said it looks more like the work of a devil than a man. Difficult to believe another human could do that to poor Mary Kelly. Now, she is the only Ripper victim killed indoors, so she is the most butchered. Because Jack didn't have to worry about being disturbed. And of course, everybody's scared, thinking, goodness me, what do you think is going to happen next? What happens next? Nothing. That's it. Jack disappears back into the shadows from whence he came, leaving us with a very big mystery. Now, I do have photographs, including 2 of Mary Kelly lying butchered on the bed. I'm going to warn you now, they're pretty graphic. I will warn you again before I show them to you. If you don't want to see them, feel free to close your eyes and look the other way. A lot of follow me now, ladies and gentlemen, we're heading this direction. The photograph I'm showing you now is of the brick archway I mentioned to you. In order to access Mary's room at Miller's Court, you have to go down through the passageway. You then would have seen Mary's room at 13 Miller's Court. 13. Unlucky for some. It certainly was for Mary Kelly. And it's the window on the lower right that we're concerned with, because you might remember I explained to you how the rent collector puts his hand through the broken window, grabs the curtain and pulls it away. It's time for the warning now. The next two pictures are disgusting. If you don't want to see them, please look away now, because this is what he sees lying on the bed. Yes, the butchered remains of Mary Kelly. Now, lower right, you've got the bedside table, piles of flesh upon it. To the far right, you've got her head. Notice that the face has been extensively disfigured. Towards the centre of the photograph, in the upper part of the body, has been ripped apart by Jack. The hand there has been placed inside the stomach cavity. Towards the left-hand side of the photograph, you can just make out one of Mary Kelly's legs and her thigh. Can you see that whitish piece there, near the thigh? Well, that is the bone that's peeping through. It's a truly horrendous photograph, one seen, never forgotten. Another picture is taken across the body. What we're looking at here, top right, bedside table, piles of flesh upon it. Lower right, believe it or not, those are Mary Kelly's thighs. Looks like something you'd see at a butcher's market. No wonder Mr. McCarthy said, it looks more like the work of a devil than a man. A lot of following me now, ladies and gentlemen, based on my 30 years of research, professional historian and official recordologist. I'll always say at this point, you don't have to believe me, and you don't have to agree with me. This is one theory out of many, and I hope you're doing the tour this evening will inspire you to read a book, maybe watch a movie, go to Google, do some research for yourself. It's all